Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the relatively common normal flying type Pokemon Doduo, the Twin Bird Pokémon, and its relatively rare evolution Dodrio, the Triple Bird Pokémon. The members of the Doduo family are flightless birds that have similar features to that of ostriches, which are believed to be their closest relative, as well as birds like the emu and the extinct moa bird. Their bodies are covered in light, fluffy brown feathers that do little for flight, but help keep them warm, as the wings are too small for them to even be able to fly at all. While the wings are so small they are almost completely invisible, buried beneath their feathers, their beige legs are very long and prominent and end with a pair of four-toed clawed feet that are perfect for gripping terrain firmly. Their long necks, which are black in males and beige-colored in females, are fairly long and connect to their heads in a spindly fashion, being highly flexible. In the case of Doduo, this ends with a pair of heads covered in their body feathers, with deep black eyes and long, pointed beige beaks. In the case of their evolved form Dodrio, there are 3 heads, and while their beaks look relatively the same, their eyes are more developed and clear to see, and their heads are each adorned with a double crest of black feather material. Furthermore, in the case of Dodrio, the undersides of their bodies are coated in a layer of black feathers, and they possess a series of red tail feathers to help them balance their bodies when running at high speeds. Doduo and Dodrio once had the ability to fly in the distant past, but they became more adapted to life on the ground and eventually lost their ability to fly altogether. Today, in order to get around, they have to use their long legs to move about, but they are perfectly adapted for this, as while their legs seem long and fairly spindly, they are packed with muscle, and the joints piecing them together are so flexible and strong that it is almost impossible for them to be damaged by these creatures when running at top speed. In the case of Doduo, their powerful legs allow them to run as fast as 60 miles per hour on the grassy plains and dry savannas they call home, and can reach that speed in mere seconds, their heads bobbing up and down alternatively to help them maintain balance, and leaving tracks as much as 4 inches deep in their wake from the powerful pressure they exert on the ground below them. Because their bodies are not quite built to be able to handle that kind of speed, however, they can usually only maintain this top speed for about 30 seconds at most, and their large tracks can make them easy to track down after the fact. Even so, this is a perfect tool for escaping predators, as these skittish birds will use their running prowess to dash away from something the moment that they feel threatened. With Dodrio, on the other hand, their larger frames means that they are generally limited to a maximum speed of about 40 miles per hour, but unlike Doduo, these birds are not limited to just 3 heads, but in fact have 3 hearts and 3 sets of lungs as well, believed to be a byproduct of the abnormal mutation that occurs when they evolve from Doduo that grants them their 3rd head. This provides them with an incredible amount of stamina that can help them run for incredibly long distances without ever having to rest, making them fairly popular as mounts when other high-tech forms of transportation are not available. This ties in directly with the fact that they can possess Run Away as a base ability, while their other abilities, namely their other base ability, Early Bird, and their hidden ability, Tangled Feet, are a direct product of the normal operation of and/or mixed signals being sent between their multiple heads. In terms of stats, in looking at Dodrio in particular, their speed and deceptive physical power show off prominently, as while most of their stats are below average for a Pokemon of their types, both their base attack and speed stats are above average for a fully evolved normal and flying type Pokemon. This makes sense in light of the fact that they are mainly physical combatants and learn only a few different special attacks, which is fine for them, as Doduo and Dodrio especially have the offensive tools needed to be a serious threat against unarmored opponents in battle. In looking at Doduo, the most obvious thing that stands out about them is the fact that they have 2 heads. While it is believed that this was once originally an odd mutation, it has proven to be so beneficial to the survival of the species that it has, over time, become a dominant trait that is present in all members of the species at birth. The heads are actually clones of each other, and thus possess identical brains in most cases, though in rare instances, it has been observed that some will be born with different brains. Thankfully, this does not seem to make life more difficult for them, so it is a moot issue at best. In order to keep their brains in sync, these creatures possess a nerve cluster at the base of their necks that allows their brains to telepathically link together so they can freely coordinate their movements, enabling for them to exist as a fully functional organism despite their abnormal form. The only time this can be a problem for them is if they become confused, as their movements can become erratic. But if they have the Tangled Feet ability, this is not always a bad thing, since their awkward movements will make them that much harder to hit. While the brains of these creatures work in unison to feed and operate their body, they can still act independently and will often do so for their own sake, with one head grazing on food and the other keeping a watch out for predators. The same even happens while they sleep, with the heads taking turns while the alert head keeps an eye out for attackers. This can make Doduo a bit awkward to handle at first, but the fact that their movements are automatically coordinated internally can thankfully make them fairly easy to train. When Doduo evolve, an unstable mutation occurs in their DNA that forces one of their heads to replicate and split apart, creating the three-headed monster bird known as Dodrio. In this state, the sudden mutation disrupts the operations that kept the brains of Doduo synchronized and results in three independently thinking heads, each in a constant emotional state of joy, anger, or sorrow, depending upon which head is being observed, and further grants them immediate access to the try-attack move after evolving. In order to maintain some semblance of control, these beasts possess an enlarged series of nerve clusters at the base of their bodies where their three spinal cords meet, allowing them to communicate with each other without having to make a single sound. On the one hand, this can allow them to use all three of their brains to process thoughts and information at once, allowing them to make calculated decisions 3 times as wise and planned out as what a normal bird could be capable of. However, if they do this for too long, they can get lost in their own thoughts and end up completely immobilized from indecision. Moreover, it can also lead these creatures to squabble over food and trying to decide which head should be able to eat first. But in the end, it doesn't really matter, as the nerve cluster in their bodies shares the hunger response in all 3 heads. So if it is satisfied in one head, it will be transmitted to the other 2, and they too will become satisfied. Much like Doduo, these creatures will also always keep one head awake when sleeping and take turns so they can watch out for possible predators, though they have very few in their evolved state. And if all 3 heads are looking in different directions, it's a sign that they are on their guard and watching for possible attackers. Getting near them in this state or ceasing to make eye contact once it is made is a bad idea, as they will viciously peck at anything that gets close to them while they are on a vigilant watch, only choosing to run away if their powerful jump kick, drill peck, or thrash attacks have no effect on a potential opponent. While they certainly might be among the oddest of bird Pokemon out there, the members of the Doduo family are nonetheless surprisingly tough birds that can deliver a powerful beatdown on anything that dares to underestimate them. Learning how to coordinate their actions might take some time, but they are still decent Pokemon that can prove to be loyal birds both on the battlefield and as mounted rides. If you plan on taking one of these creatures out for a ride though, make sure that you bring plenty of food on the trip for the both of you. Doduo might not be a problem, but if your Dodrio starts to fight with itself over the food because you didn't bring enough to keep all 3 heads happy to prevent said squabbling, you might be in for some serious physical trauma if you get too close to their squabbling beaks after the fact and end up angering one or more of their heads in the process. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description.
Yeah, no.
With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.